Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Precisely Nowhere. I hope you're having a good day today, and I am happy to be back on the mic. I know I said every 2 weeks we'd get the content flowing. I'm a week off, but I'm glad that you're here with me if you're listening, and maybe you're catching up on episodes. So you're not even waiting that extra week. Anyway, my best friend is coming into town and I'm so excited to host her. She's only here for the weekend. She has an event in LA, so she came out a few days early and we are going to chill by the pool and hang, and I'm stoked. So I'm going to jump right into the episode because she's coming the day that I'm recording, and I, of course, love to do things last minute. Not in all aspects of my life, but I can be a procrastinator. I am working on balancing and prioritizing. It's a daily practice, but I am taking baby steps, and therapy has been really helpful for that. I love talking things out, and I have so many things in my brain sometimes. I don't know if you can relate. There's so many things that we want to do in life. So we can't do them all at the same time. And we have to prioritize our energy and how we spend our energy. And lately, I've been feeling like I have been giving my energy to a lot of external things that don't always give me, like, fill my cup up. Not in a bad way, but there are different things that we can give our energy to that don't always return energy to us, if that makes any sense. So I am in a mode of refocusing my energy and getting back to spending time on things that fill my cup up, in addition to other things like spending time with family. And I have my 9 to 5 job, and I have to do things that bring me joy as well in different ways. And it brings me joy when I spend time being creative, and that can be from the podcast to interior design. And so that's why today we're going to talk about interior design and how to decorate on a budget and with a purpose. And I will get into what that means to me in terms of decorating with purpose. But since I was young, like a child, I've loved decorating. Some of my memories feel like they were yesterday, and that is decorating my room, like from picking the color of my room to going to the store and buying a J14 magazine and all of those magazines that used to have posters in them. I loved putting those up. I also had a James Dean photo in my room that was huge, and it was black and white. It had this cool black frame with gold accents. It was everything. I had a huge crush on him. So I remember from a young age just loving having a space that felt like it was coming to life through the walls, if that makes any sense, and the decor. So yesterday I had the day off and I spent most of it cleaning my balcony. We have a small balcony that overlooks the pool in our apartment complex, and it's a calming view to see the palm trees and see the pool, and the vibe in general of our apartment complex is, it's kind of resort like. I don't mean to say that to sound bougie, but the architecture style and the way that they've designed it does make me feel like I am in another place, not in the suburbs of Southern California, which I absolutely love because it's my home and I get to look at the view every day. But we haven't had any furniture on our balcony, and we've lived here for almost 2 years. I've had this vision in my head, but haven't brought it to life until literally yesterday. So I'm super excited. I feel so satisfied after cleaning the balcony. It was very dusty. Let's say it's been collecting dust, and your girl hasn't been upkeeping it as much. So I cleaned it off. I used some water, a little bit of soap, and my dad let me borrow a broom that had these fine bristles that helped push all the dirt. And we have a little drain that is right off our balcony, so it doesn't go right underneath to the people that live underneath us. It like goes down a little sewage drain. So being mindful of my neighbors, but found a great patio set on Facebook Marketplace, brand new with the plastic still on the cushions for $175. And it's two really nice chairs and a table. The person that I bought it from threw in furniture covers for $20. So, in my opinion, it was a steal because I was going to need to go find those anyway. And now I have brand new furniture covers, which give me peace of mind. I don't have to go search for those. And even though I'm sure they're not hard to find, but I feel like I got a better bargain on them than I would have got from the store. So super stoked about this new furniture. And I have been searching on Facebook Marketplace for months now. Sometimes I found things, but it wasn't the right fit. I can be a little particular with my furniture. I like to buy something and be excited about it, not impulse buy something and then a week later regret it and want to buy something else. I am intentional with how I spend money and love a bargain. So super stoked. I also was looking on OfferUp. If you're not familiar, OfferUp is another app and website where people resell things. And my dad has gotten so many things off OfferUp that are great, from like bikes to home decor. So if you're looking to give something a second life or sell something and give it a second life, I would check those places out. Be careful with who you're buying from. I will look at the profile of the people that post it, make sure they look legit, like they actually have things that they've sold before. They had friends. They didn't just create a profile yesterday. And I went with my boyfriend to pick it up. I try not to go alone to things because being a woman, I am always on defense mode, I would say, with some things. Just want to practice safety first. And not that there's, I mean, there are some sus people out there in the world. So I don't think I need to belabor that comment, but stoked. The person I bought it from was super nice. And I feel like she does this for a living, seems to be making some good money off of it. So my boyfriend and I had dinner on the balcony and great conversation. It was so nice. We have lights on the railing that are a vibe. So that with the furniture and the cool air and breeze at night was everything. And I'm so excited to use the balcony even more. I plan on working from the balcony when I work from home for parts of the day. It doesn't always have sun directly on it, which is perfect. So I will keep you posted. But oh, and I'm thinking of adding a sheer curtain with a tension rod at the top because there's walls. It's enclosed, partially enclosed. So there's walls on both sides. I wanted to add that to give us some privacy in the evenings. And the apartment faces building and there are some windows there, but I don't ever see my neighbors. So it's not something that I'm doing because, okay. Um, so yeah, I could talk about this all day, and this this is giving you a sense of how much I love interior design and decorating. So wanted to also share a book that I'm currently reading. And I got this from a Secret Santa at work from a girl who also loves interior design. And I'm so grateful that she gifted me this book. It's called The Interior Design Handbook by Frida Ramstedt. I will put the link to the book in the episode description. Frida is the founder of Trend Denser, one of Sweden's largest and most long-standing blogs on interior design. So she knows what she's talking about. And I wanted to share a few chapter titles with you to give you a sense of the vibe of the book. I haven't read it through fully. So once I do finish this book eventually, I will share a recap on it for those of you who might be interested. But a few chapters are basic principles and rules of thumb. So you learn basic principles like visual weight, which I didn't know about visual weight. And if you think about it, visual weight, everything visually has a different weight to it when you look at it with your eye. So it breaks down that and it gives you examples on how to arrange things to be mindful of visual weight. There are colors. So, talking about color palettes, what a color scheme is, the Encyclopedia of Nature. Haven't got there yet, but wanted to share that because that entices me. And design tips. So, from still life styling to the styling a bookcase and interior design with plants. So lots of great information in here. And if you are interested in learning more about interior design, I highly recommend getting this book because it is a one-on-one on interior design. My friend that gave it to me said when she gifted this to me that this book changed everything for her. It made her realize her passion in interior design. And she shared it with me because I had shared in my Secret Santa that I had a passion for interior design. So thank you, Kaylee. I'm not going to say Kaylee's last name because I am mindful of people's privacy, but I will link to her website as well since then she started her own interior design company and she is thriving. She used to work with me in my 9 to 5 job and was on the creative team as a creative lead and art director. So she is very talented and I am so happy for her that she found her passion for interior design and I'm cannot wait to finish reading through this book. It takes me a while to read through books because I'm not a huge reader. I love books and have a mini library in my office, but I get impatient and I read and then I want to go do something else. So I'm going to make it a challenge for myself to read through this book by the end of this year. 6 months sounds crazy to read through one book, but that's the pace that I go at, and that's okay. We all go at different paces. So that brings us to giving items a second life. It's important to me even more so as I've gotten older and come to appreciate that not everything has to be new. And there's something special with unique found pieces, especially those that have already had a first life and then have found their way into my home or a store that I'm at. And I love supporting small businesses. So it goes hand in hand. And some of those small businesses are bookstores, boutiques. There's so many. If you look for them, they have hidden gems and unique items. I recently found a portrait of a woman at a bookstore in LA and asked the owner if it was for sale. Pro tip, sometimes you have to ask. To my surprise, it was for sale and we purchased it. We, as in my dad, purchased it for me because he's such a loving father. I was going to purchase it for myself, but he insisted. And when kindness comes your way, sometimes we have to accept it. So thank you, Dad. He purchased this beautiful portrait. It's this woman who is Hispanic and she is so beautiful and statuesque, but also there's a lot of warmth in the photo. And I love the colors and it's printed on canvas. So you can really see the paint strokes and the detail that went into painting it. The owner had let me know that it came from an old art school in Hollywood that he inherited some of these prints. They used to be hanging in the school. There isn't a signature on it, so it's an unknown art piece, but I absolutely love it. I love the arts in general and museums. They're near and dear to my heart. I know I've talked about that through some of my old IG posts and also through some old episodes, but I love a museum, and some museums all have the best art. There are pieces that they'll have printed of art pieces like a famous artist, but also such cute things like cool coasters with art or postcards that I've framed. So some museums in New York City that I love, the MoMA, Museum of the City of New York, the Met. There's so many museums, especially abroad. I love checking those out when I travel and hitting up the stores. I have a lot of prints from different museums that are cool. You would never know that they came from a museum, which is the best part. Bookstores, independent ones, have lots of goodies. Non-independent ones like Barnes and Noble also, but I've found that some of the independent bookstores are where I find the coolest pieces. Online, also Etsy and other independent artists. A lot of artists nowadays have their own websites, so I would check out Instagram, check out TikTok. You can find art anywhere nowadays, which is exciting, and I love the in-person experience though. There's something about sifting through art myself and picking a print and buying it that day that is so satisfying. I also like to dabble in making my own art and wanted to share that as an inspiration. We can make our own art. Hit up Michael's, get a canvas, get some paint. I have a couple pieces in my office that I painted. One was a paint by numbers kit. And if you're not familiar with paint by numbers, it's a print, usually on a thin piece of canvas, and there's numbers in it, and it's a visual, and it comes with set colors that have corresponding numbers, and you essentially paint that and follow that. I have a simpler version that I painted. I got for Christmas a few years ago, and that was really fun, therapeutic. I also did a paint night with my family, my tias and my cousins and my mom. We found something on YouTube that showed us how to paint a Frida step by step. And I have that Frida canvas in my office because she turned out quite nice, I would have to say. Um, when I was in New York actually last summer, I was walking around Central Park and stumbled upon this girl who does painting I think every a few days a week during the summer. She brings a bunch of little canvases and paint and has picnic blankets and helps paint with strangers, like from kids to adults. It was really cool. And I have a small little canvas that I painted that stays on my desk. It's those little things that are moments of me being creative that when I look at them, I feel fulfilled and it takes me back to the experience when I painted it. I think that's one of the most special things about making your own art is it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful thing ever, but when you look back at it, you think about that experience, and I think that's one of the most beautiful parts. Life is filled with lots of little experiences, and for me, it's about the journey, not the end result. So I love looking back at different moments of my journey and having those physical reminders. Um, Postcards are also a fun way to remember experiences, especially if you're maybe not as creative and but want to still partake and have that physical aspect. I have some cool postcards that I've picked up along my travels. I have one in my office that is from Shakespeare and Co. bookstore in Paris, France. And it's right near the Notre Dame Cathedral. It's across the river, so you cross a little bridge, but it's a small little bookstore, and I have a postcard of the outside of it. It's really beautiful. There's a cherry blossom tree, and when you look at it, it just looks like a picture that somebody took. And because I have it framed, it every time I look at it, it reminds me from the time that I went to Paris, the first time I went with my mom when I was studying abroad. I took a trip and did Paris and London with my mom for the week. We spent about a few days in each. And I also have a frame of the New Yorker. In when I was leaving New York, I got some cute little cards that are covers of the New Yorker, and I framed that as well. So there's lots of ways to repurpose art and give it a second life beyond what its initial purpose might have been. Yeah, I wanted to share that because I am here for sharing tips and giving inspiration to people that may be interested but not know where to start. So I hope this helps you and find your own way to tap into your creativity. I recognize that we may not have access to boutiques and traveling. So if you don't, a few good places to check out are TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Hobby Lobby, Marshalls as well. I used to love going to TJ Maxx and Home Goods when I was in the city. They have great frames and great art. The ones in the suburbs sometimes feel like a hit or miss. I don't know if all the good stuff's going to the city, but I also love Hobby Lobby. I recently went and they had 50% off all wall decor. So I went ham and bought a bunch of frames. I think I've talked about this already. So, or I might have recorded an episode that never got posted low key. But here we are. Those stores have great things too. So check them out. There are lots of ways to decorate on a budget. I'm trying to find the right pieces that also have the right price point. And I want to decorate with a purpose, meaning I don't want to just put things on my walls for the sake of putting things on my walls. I want to feel like I'm making a home that has intentional pieces. So, little by little, collecting things and giving things a second life. I found some great things when I was in Arizona in May with my friends at antique stores and thrift stores that I am obsessed with. So, here for investing in older pieces and being more conscious of sustainability. There's a lot of art out there that was made in previous times that still is fresh and needs a home. So think about that the next time you go to buy something. Maybe check out a local small business or a thrift store or an antique store. You never know where you're going to find. And they are everywhere, I would say, for the most part. Even in other countries, there's lots of boutiques, artists that sell their prints. Those are some of my favorite pastimes when I do travel abroad is finding those local artists and taking home a unique piece. So, TV Rex for this episode. If you've watched Yellowstone, you're familiar with the Dutton family. Today, we're following the Dutton family back in time with two TV show recs. If you're not familiar with Yellowstone, I highly recommend that show and recommend you watch 1883 first. My boyfriend watched it in this order, and it's fun to see his perspective because I initially watched it Yellowstone, that came out first, and then I watched 1883, and then I watched 1923. So if you're interested in getting invested in this franchise of a show, I would say start with 1883. That is a prequel to Yellowstone that came out after Yellowstone ended. It came out more recently in the past couple years. I loved Yellowstone and I loved this prequel. The way of life was so different on so many levels in 1883, and life expectancy was a lot younger. The average life expectancy in 1885 was 41. I Googled this. And because I was fascinated just to see what the difference is compared to now. And thinking about that, let it sit with you that the average life expectancy was 41. It makes sense when you watch this show because the times were, it almost feels like the Wild Wild West. They were venturing to new lands, discovering new parts of America since this is set in the Americas. But your life was a lot shorter. I'm about to turn 32 this year, and thinking that I would only have 9 years of my life left is wild to think about. I'm certainly not in that state of mind, and there are many more years I have left to live, but it's wild. Really good show. 1923 is the next spinoff. This is another prequel that came out after 1883. So we've traded in horse and buggies for electric vehicles at this point and early automobiles. So it's cool to see that perspective. We're following the Dutton family still, the next generation of the family, and we meet the Rainwater family. So that is a roller coaster in itself. Average life expectancy in 1925 was 58. So we've added 17 years to the average life. Woohoo! And a lot of violence in general against women. So it's hard to watch at times, but a visual reminder of what the times were like for many and reminds me to practice gratitude. Yellowstone is around the 1990s, 2000s. So we fast forwarded many years. All of these can be found on Peacock. And I love you all so much. My best friend just got here and I need to go find her and let her in since I live in an apartment complex. So that is going to be the end of this episode. We have another episode coming out in 2 weeks, and I will be going to Chicago to visit my boyfriend's family. So I'm recording them early so I can take some time off and enjoy being with family. And then we're back at it when I come back from Chicago. Super stoked. I love you all. And thank you all so much for listening. Chat soon. Bye.
Music and editing done by Marco. You can find him at midnight, MIDNITE_mind80 on Instagram for more of his work.